Hi everybody, this is Rick here. Welcome to Digital Fortress. I'm going to go over a few things tonight. The two main things are, first of all, is the SEC lawsuit against Ripple. First of all, disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. I'm just a guy on YouTube. However, it's always good to talk about things and hear the opinions and the take of the average people on how things go. I'm going to take a different tack on it. I'm going to take the SEC's side, and I'm going to go over the SEC complaint. And the second part of this video, I might save it for a different video, but the second part of this video, and the more important part, is how can you help the SEC define safe harbor, specifically Hester Peirce, SEC Commissioner. She had put out an article asking for feedback, and I'll touch on that one later as well. Hello, James. Welcome to Digital Fortress here, and let me get into the articles. I'm going to do a screen share and show you some examples of articles. You've probably heard a lot of things on Twitter recently and in the news about Ripple. I mean, everyone's talking about it, and everyone in crypto has been talking about it. But here's my general take on it. Does it affect Cardano? I doubt it. I mean, if it does, it'll probably be some sort of minimal impact. But think about it. There's this lawsuit filed by the SEC. It's a civil lawsuit filed against Ripple. And I think some people are concerned, oh, will Cardano be affected? You had people like Tone Vase say some ridiculous things about, you know, who's next, and listing a bunch of coins like Tezos and Cardano and a bunch of other ones, which was just really kind of a ridiculous thing to do. But could Cardano be affected? Well, let's think about this for a second. Cardano is currently a currency or a commodity, right? And when Cardano did a pre-sale, there was a pre-sale of vouchers that was done in Japan, not in the United States, outside the scope of the SEC. So it's possible in 2015, 2016, when the pre-sale occurred, could it have been considered a security? Well, maybe, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't done in the United States. Cardano pre-sale was done correctly. It was very transparent. There is on the CardanoFoundation.org website and on Why Cardano, it has the Genesis block, the original token distribution of vouchers and where they were sold, and it was mostly about 92% was in Japan. So it didn't fall under the purview or the scope of the SEC. Now, the SEC is a good thing. The SEC is there to protect consumers against scams, against large-scale scams, to protect the investors. And what they largely deal with, securities, are things like stocks and bonds, things that are a contract of investment, like a contract that you can earn money. If you put your money into this thing, we will do something and try to earn you more money in the process. Okay, so things like stocks and bonds are types of securities, and cryptocurrencies fall on a gray area, which happens. I mean, most people don't like gray areas, but they're there. Where when it gets launched, could it be a security? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on how it was launched. Was it done correctly? Was it done not inside the United States? So Cardano launched in Japan and a couple other Asian countries, not in the United States. By the time it reached the United States, it was a commodity or a cryptocurrency, a currency, i.e. not a security. Again, I'm not a legal expert. I don't work for the SEC. Just my opinion, but totally makes sense. Cardano was done right from the ground up. Could the SEC put Cardano under scrutiny? Sure, why not? If Cardano withstands that scrutiny and stands up well to it, then it's stronger. It's a stronger case because it's okay. It stood up to scrutiny, which is a good thing. Will it get scrutinized? Probably not. Just my opinion. So I just want to let you know that. All right, so let's see who's here. James Envios Deretos, Wired Sparks. How you doing, everyone? Metal Gear Mark III. And Wired Spark says Tone Vase. The BT. I've noticed that. He is just another maxi. You know, and being a maxi is not healthy. I don't think it's healthy because it's kind of like saying the best technology was invented 11 years ago and you cannot possibly invent a better technology in the future. That just does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay, that's the same thing. It's a perfectly good analogy. The best technology was invented 11 years ago, and you can't invent a better one. It's impossible. Doesn't make any sense. All right, so I'm going to do a screen share and go over the SEC side. I'm actually, you saw it on crypto Twitter. If you follow on Twitter, Facebook, you read articles from Forbes. I have an article from Forbes here. What about the SEC side? I'm just going to go over the civil suit, the actual civil suit in black and white. It might sound boring, but you know what? It's not. If you read it, it kind of makes sense. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's why you have judges. That's why it's going to a trial. A judge has to decide whether or not it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But reading over it, these are some pretty compelling allegations. This isn't just a question, is there a gray area? So let's take a look at that. Let me share my screen with you guys. Now, the first thing I have up is this article from Forbes, for example. And if I just show you what they generally do, is it a currency or security? And it says the central question is whether XRP is a currency or security. Here, let me make my screen a little bit bigger. Let me make that a little bigger for those of you that have old eyes like me. Is the central question is whether or not it's a security, okay? Well, I don't know if it's a question of whether or not it's a security or not, but a lot of these currency-friendly news sources, they kind of tend to play softball with it. I don't. Y'all know me. I don't play softball. If they deserve to get fucked, fuck them. Because if there's scammers out there, throw their ass in jail. You know, that's just how it is. That's why we have accountability systems in place, and I'm a big fan of accountability, and I think crypto will be bigger, better, faster, stronger. The sooner the crypto, like the ICOs of 2017, if they had faced more accountability and more scrutiny, then it wouldn't have been so bad, right? But they didn't. So I think accountability is a good thing. So here's the actual lawsuit. I'm going to take the SEC's side on this. I'm just going to read you right here in black and white, and you can follow along. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my screen. So if you have comments, I'll also read your comments, and we'll play along like that. Okay. All right. Mach2 Eggern says, "Hey Rick, Happy New Year." Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Good morning from the Philippines, from Mbot. Welcome from the Philippines. And it must be, it's early morning in the Philippines right now. It's about maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, I guess, maybe. And the Greys and the Reptilians, yeah. Grayscales, the Greys and the Reptilians. All right, so let's take a look at this real quick. Here's the summary. Okay. All right, starting off from the top, and then I'm going to comment on it after I read a few paragraphs. But from at least 2013 through the present, defendants sold over 14.6 billion units of digital asset security called XRP. Okay, sounds like a typical cryptocurrency thing, right? Maybe not so much. In return for cash or other considerations worth over 1.38 billion US dollars to fund Ripple's operations and enrich Larsen and Garlinghouse. Defendants undertook this distribution without registering their offers and sales of XRP with the SEC as required by federal security laws, and no exemption from this requirement applied. Now remember, all the other people out there, stocks, bonds, your 401ks, anything that has those types of financial products in it, they have to comply with the SEC. They have to comply with this. The SEC isn't just a bunch of bad guys. They're not a bunch of jackbooted thugs. They're actually nice people, as we'll see in a little while. But let me keep going over this. Paragraph 2, because Ripple never filed a registration statement, it never provided investors with the material information that every year hundreds of other issuers include in such statements when soliciting public investment. Instead, Ripple created an information vacuum such that Ripple and two insiders with the most control over it, Larsen and Garlinghouse, could sell XRP into a market that possessed only the information the defendants chose to share about Ripple and XRP. Now, I don't know if any of you have read the actual accusation. I've got the link down below in the description. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe. This is an accusation that they create information vacuum. Now, would they just wager these accusations against any cryptocurrency? No, they would not. They would have to have evidence to support that accusation. That's why they're going after Ripple. The thing that kind of pisses me off on crypto Twitter is people like, oh no, this is the trial of the century. And Forbes, that article from Forbes I just showed you, trial of the century for crypto. No, it isn't. It's the SEC going after a couple of non-compliant people who may have been scamming, and that is a good thing, right? That is a good thing. And they'll find out. If they were scamming, then they'll have to pay a penalty. It's not criminal. It's only civil. They'll have to pay a penalty. And if worse, then maybe criminal charges will be brought up. Okay. So it goes on to say, Ripple engaged in this illegal security offering from 2013 to the president, even though Ripple received legal advice as early as 2012. Okay, now why would the SEC put that sentence in their allegations? Why? Because that legal advice probably would have come from the SEC, right? So I imagine there are records somewhere that say the SEC notified Ripple, hey, this is a security. You need to follow these rules in order to protect you, the investors, right? And people, here's another false argument. I often hear people say, oh, well, that was 8 years ago. Why did they wait so long? Okay, why did they wait so long? It takes time to do two things. One, you give them the ability to become compliant. You know, you allow time. Are you going to comply or not? We told you to do this. You didn't do it. Are you going to comply? Time goes by. The government doesn't do anything fast. They say, well, they won't comply, so let's go ahead and start getting our data together and run it through the gambit. And then there's no statute of limitations on these civil suits. Okay? If they violated the SEC regulations, they broke the rules. If they broke the rules, if a judge decides the rules were broken, therefore the rules were broken. Just like EOS paid a $20 million fine for selling a security, which was a slap on the wrist, right? It's not much to EOS. All right. So anyway, paragraph 4 or statement 4 under that paragraph, Ripple and Larson ignored this advice and instead elected to assume the risk of initiating a large-scale distribution without registration. Ripple and Larson ignored this advice. The SEC, what I get from paragraph 3 and 4, in 2012, the SEC told Ripple and Larson that they need to comply with security requirements, the securities regulations. You don't see this on crypto Twitter. You don't. You just see people go, oh, poor Ripple, now my bags are a threat, my Cardano bags, my ETH bags. No, these people were probably doing something they shouldn't have been doing. I don't want to be associated with criminals. If these guys were doing something illegal, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I want them to, pay the penalties. If that's the case, but only a judge can decide, not me. I'm just a dude on YouTube. All right, any comments? Lots of folks there. Let me go, before I go into paragraph 5, I got some good stuff coming later with Hester Peirce, who's awesome. She's crypto mom. She's an SEC commissioner, and I have her information up here next. All right, so let's see. Oh, Anthony Cardano. Anthony, good to see you here. Good to see you here, sir. Crypto Guitar Dude 85 Charles has really broken this down already. It has less to do with them being a security and more about XRP leadership selling tokens on retail, paying themselves and shareholders and market manipulation. Oh, okay, yeah, I did see Charles's breakdown and also. So it's a both and. So it has to do with they violated security, but they also paid themselves a large sum of money, which is also in this document. This document is linked down below. This is the charges filed against Ripple. And you don't see Cardano doing anything like this. I have no worries about Cardano. That's my opinion. If the SEC wanted to poke around, maybe they already did, and they're like, well, yeah, there's nothing there. Maybe, I don't know. So anyway, so for number 5, paragraph 5, from a financial perspective, the strategy worked. Over years-long unregistered offering of securities, Ripple was able to raise $1.38 billion by selling XRP without providing the type of financial and managerial information typically provided in registration statement and subsequent periodic and current filings. Ripple's used this money to fund its operations without disclosing how it was doing so. or the full extent of its payments to others to assist in its efforts to develop a use for XRP and maintain XRP secondary trading markets. Okay, so eventually it'll become a crypto, which is fine. That's the whole point when people deploy a cryptocurrency, is to make it become a currency. But in this case, it was before it was launched in the United States. It was not registered as a security. At the time, it wasn't currently a currency. There's something called the Howey test. And Ripple, if you read other articles, Ripple doesn't pass the Howey test in a sense that it shows up as a security if you Howey test it back in the time from 2012 to 2015. Okay, nowadays it might actually be a currency because it is used as a currency, which is fine. But they're not talking about now 2020, 2021. They're talking about when they were told in 2012, 13, 14, hey, you need to comply. They didn't. Okay. Paragraph 6 says, meanwhile, Larson, Ripple's initial CEO and current chairman of the board, Garlinghouse, orchestrated these unlawful sales and personally profited by approximately $600 million from their unregistered sales of XRP. That sentence right there is damning. That's in a legal document. Now, it still has to go in front of a judge, a magistrate, or a district judge, one of the two. Either the district judge or the magistrate can review this case. But they would not have put such a strong statement in this document. They're basically saying they kind of skimmed off $600 million. Does that sound right to you? That sounds like, yeah, that sounds like a scam. I'm going to say it. Okay. Garlinghouse did so while repeatedly touting that he was very long XRP, meaning he held significant position. He expected to rise in value without disclosing his sales of XRP. That's another problem. If people are holding, if people launch a business and they are holding large quantities of their own shares, stocks, whatever their product is that they're trying to pimp, if they're selling it off to enrich themselves, that's the sign of an exit scam. It's a classic sign of an exit scam. It doesn't mean it is one, but that's how the enforcement agencies identify people who are up to no good. That's just how it is, okay? And the defendants continue to hold substantial amounts of XRP, and without no registration statement in effect, can continue to monetize while using the information asymmetry. Now, I'll give you an example. If you ever had stocks, bonds, 401k portfolios, they have information disclosure statements all the time about how it's doing, where it's at, quarterly statements, all that information is provided to the investors so that you can make informed decisions and stay informed even if you're in it long term. There's an important reason for that, so you know what's going on. There are information disclosure requirements on those financial products, okay? All right, so let me see what else here. Metal Gear Mark III says, Cardano should be safe. I don't think they sold to any U.S. citizens during their Japanese ICO phases. That's correct. The Cardano initial sales were voucher sales, okay? It was vouchers to be redeemed for Cardano. Those were sold. That was how the pre-sale was done. I mean, some people call it an ICO. Cardano did a pre-sale using vouchers because you cannot, in proof-of-stake systems, at least with Cardano and others like Cardano, no one entity can have control of 51% or more of the tokens at any given time, which is also the case in Cardano at any point in the history of the token. Therefore, Cardano did it right and sold vouchers for the Genesis block so that when the Genesis deployed and those vouchers were redeemed, the Cardano, the ADA came into existence in the possession of other people. So it came into existence already distributed, right? There's already in a distributed environment where ownership was spread across a number of people who bought the initial vouchers. Okay, that's some of the history you can find on whycardano.org. Okay, so the commission brings this action pursuant to the authority conferred. Okay, so on and so on. There's some legalese down here about how this all works out, and there's some information about where the trial is going to be held. But anyway, you can see there's some statements in here that are, if true, it's pretty bad for Ripple. That's all there's to it. Again, it still has to go to a judge, but there's $600 million, personally profiting $600 million. I mean, does that sound right to you all? That doesn't sound right. This is a startup. You don't just print between 2012 and 2015, print $600 million worth of money or $1.3 billion worth of money out of thin air and start selling it to people saying, hey, this is real money, blah, 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 and then sock away $600 million of it. That sounds like a total scam. That's all there's to it. That's all there's to it. It's pretty simple. If I can smell bullshit from a mile away. And when I read over this, I was like, man, those guys were up to some bullshit. Again, it's allegations, has to go to a judge. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next good part. The good stuff comes second. There's a link down below to the SEC. It was a speech given by Hester Peirce in February of 2020. So this was 11 months ago. And she talks about the definition of safe harbor. Now, Cardano doesn't need safe harbor, or at least the ADA portion of it, because it's already in currency commodity state. It's already distributed and being traded on exchanges. It's extremely decentralized. But there could be developers in the future launching products on Cardano or new tokens on Cardano, and having a good, clean definition of safe harbor with the SEC might help those developers and entrepreneurs in the future. And if you're an American, you can comment on that. If you're not American, you could talk with your American friends and provide them some insight. So let me show you a little bit of background on this. So let me hit a few comments and I'll go on to the next one. Let's see. Anthony says, Charles' breakdown was good, but it's important to hear the SEC's words directly from the source. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Yeah. So you'll see that this is the SEC case, and I've got it linked down below. And from CT Guitar Dude, I think that's Crypto Guitar Dude 85, he said, I agree, both are valuable to take in. Yeah, there's good points. It's good to get many different perspectives. There's never two sides to an argument. There's always many, many sides. Three-dimensional. Okay, it's three-dimensional. It's a complex world we live in, and it's okay to think different. All right, so I'm going to go back to a tweet I had with Hester Peirce after I saw some of her information. I saw information about the SEC come out, and I saw it all went negative, and then I remembered Hester Peirce. I saw Hester first on Laura Shin's podcast, Off the Chain or Unchained. So if you check out Laura Shin, Hester Peirce is on there twice. She was on there earlier this year in about March of 2020, and she was on again in October of 2020. And Hester Peirce is an SEC commissioner. Some people refer to her as Crypto Mom. She is crypto friendly. But she's also an SEC commissioner, so she has to enforce the rules and maintain accountability in order to protect investors and consumers, people like you and I, okay? So their job is to protect us, to help us, to keep people from getting scammed, all right? At least the large-scale scams, those little tiny scams you see on Telegram and Twitter, those are just individual responsibility to protect yourself. But on the large scale, the SEC is there to help us on the large scale from the big time scammers with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars worth of scams. Okay, so I tweeted to Hester Peirce, and she's a human. I've seen her on podcasts. She's a very nice person, very smart person. And I thought, you know what? I want to tweet Hester because she seemed. And she replied. I was like, holy crap. She replied, yay. And she said, thank you for asking. I'm working on version 2.0 and still welcoming feedback. And that was for her proposed Securities Rule Act 195 time limit exemption for tokens. I asked her, has it been improved or in progress? Because it was February. And she said she's asking for feedback. And then we went on and had a little exchange. And she said she doesn't have a draft available to show people yet, but her input would be great. All right, so where do you give the input? That's the question. How do you give Hester input on her safe harbor proposal for cryptocurrencies? Now, this is the cool part. She is proposing 3-year safe harbor. That's my next link down below. You can read it down there. Let me try to make the screen bigger in just a moment. But she writes this article, a speech that she gave to the SEC, running on empty, a proposal to fill the gap between regulation and decentralization, right? She's a real human being. She understands that regulation does one thing. I love this story. Let's read the story. I'm going to read the story because I was going to just jump to the bottom, but you're going to love this, guys. I tell you, guys, gals, watch this. This is great. This is great. Let me try to go through this quickly and see if I can make it nice and big. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start on the second paragraph where she tells her story. She's speaking to the commission. Okay. And then she leads in with her story. Oops, I don't know if you guys can see that. All right. Hester says, okay, more than 2 decades ago, I was on a road trip. I was lost. I did not have a cell phone. It was very late at night. It was pouring. The gas gauge was on empty. There was no gas station in sight. I was distraught until 2 things happened. First, I saw the lights of a lone gas station blinking in the not too far off distance. Second, I realized that I was in New Jersey. Okay, that's bad. She realized she was in New Jersey. Any of y'all from New Jersey, you know what I'm talking about. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We used to think Philadelphia was the capital of New Jersey. We're like, yeah, that's over there in New Jersey and stuff, man. Stay out of there. All right. Anyway, this friend had grown up in New Jersey, had never pumped gas in her life. A deficiency she attributed to a New Jersey law that allowed only gas station employees at the time were allowed to pump gas. Everybody else was prohibited from pumping gas. Okay, so the average Joe Blow wasn't allowed to pump their own gas. The law sounded a little silly to me at the time, but now that I was in New Jersey about to enjoy this mandated luxury on a rain-drenched night, oops, my screen is getting all glitchy, it sounded just wonderful. Relieved that the fumes in my tank got me to the station, I pulled up to the pump, which incidentally was not under roof, substantial enough for even a rain shower, let alone this downpour. There it was, the unequivocal sign saying that it was illegal for anyone other than a gas station attendant to pump gas. Okay? It was illegal for anyone other than the attendant to pump gas. It was like that in Pennsylvania at one point. I remember when I was a kid. I don't remember. Oh, no, Pennsylvania had full service, self-service, so there was some type of delineation there. Anyway, she waited expectantly for the gas station attendant, roused from a comfortable slumber by my arrival, to emerge from his booth and start the pump. He looked at me. I looked at him. He pointed at me. He pointed at the pump. His message was clear. Forget the law. There would be no full service on that dark and stormy night. I will not tell you what choice I made, but let's just say the soundtrack for that drive was Bruce Springsteen's State Trooper. Okay, I got a clear conscience about things done, Mr. State Trooper. Please don't stop me. She goes on singing the song. Pretty cool. She's got a link to a song down below in this article too, to the Bruce Springsteen song. Okay. Perhaps the New Jersey law had a hardship exemption to cover just such situations, but the empty gas tank sign and the sign prohibiting me from filling it seemed irreconcilable. So she was faced with a dilemma. The law says she ain't allowed to pump her own gas, but she had to get gas. And now that she's a commissioner of an SEC, she sees the relationship with cryptocurrencies needing to launch some form of ICO or a pre-sale with vouchers or an IPO or whatever you want to call it. And at the time they do it, they're a security, but it's not until they build out the network and becomes decentralized. And that's where she goes on to describe So she goes on, and I just kind of summarized the next couple of paragraphs. And she details the proposal. She outlines the problem. Okay, now, is this a problem for Cardano? Probably not, because Cardano is already traveling throughout the world, and it's in a state of being a currency, okay, or a commodity, but it's not a security. It's already just circulating. But what I'm thinking is it's possible that people who launch cryptocurrencies on Cardano, native assets, tokens, whatever the case may be, they can either, launch as a security, or, I mean, if they are, they could say, oh, I'm going to launch a stock. Like Proton Mail. Proton Mail, I don't know if they started doing it yet, but they were thinking about selling their shares publicly on the blockchain. That would be a form of a security. And it's fine. It's okay to be a security as long as you follow the rules of disclosure and follow the rules of the SEC to sell securities in the United States. Perfectly okay. Just got to follow the rules, right? So anyway, she goes on to describe how the SEC has scrutinized these token sales. Or let me outline the problem first. Many crypto entrepreneurs are seeking to build decentralized networks in which a token serves as a means of exchange or provides access to the function of a network. In the course of building out the network, they need to get the tokens into the hands of other people. But these efforts can be stymied by concerns that such efforts may fall within the gambit of federal security laws. Okay? So if you want to launch a cryptocurrency, you face the notion that could it fall under the federal security laws? Okay? The fear of running afoul of security laws is real. Now, this is an SEC commissioner saying this to the SEC. So they are aware of their power of the hammer. They've got the big hammer. They know they got the big stick. And they want to wield it gracefully, right? They want to wield it carefully, all right? And given the SEC's enforcement activity in this area, these fears are not unfounded. Yep. And that's why I say, don't be afraid. If Ripple screwed up, Ripple screwed up. Doesn't mean Cardano screwed up. Doesn't mean Bitcoin screwed up. Doesn't mean Ethereum's off the hook. EOS got in trouble. Just because EOS got in trouble doesn't mean Tezos gets in trouble, right? So she goes on to describe how to apply the Howey analysis to crypto and so on. But it's not easy to do. And you can read the rest of this article down below. Okay? But what I wanted to get to here in this article is the definition. So the real question here is, how can you help? Oh, she touched on the regulatory catch-22. She is aware, as a regulator, as a commissioner of the regulators, this is the top people, right? There's at least 5 commissioners. I read something about it. There's at least 5 commissioners, and she's one of them. And one of the commissioners is the chairman or chairperson of the commissioners. Okay, and they recognize, or at least she recognizes, that they have created a regulatory catch-22. Okay, they know, they're aware of that. Okay, they're not just brutal, mindless drones. They're actually humans. All right, and they also recognize that the security laws cannot be ignored, but neither can we as security regulators ignore the conundrum that the laws create. Okay, so as you can see, if you're still watching this video up to this point, you're probably going to want to read the entire article. It is a very well-written article. And if you do get a chance, check out Laura Shin's podcast with Hester Peirce, 2 of them this year. All right, and I'm going to scroll down to the section where she goes over the definition. You see that she's a very good writer. I know I'm scrolling through a lot of paragraphs. Here's the important part, the appendix, okay? The appendix is at the bottom of the article. You can scroll all the way down to that bad boy, okay? Read the context before it. She is a great writer. You're going to love it, okay? In the appendix, she has the Rule 195, the time limit exemption for tokens, a 3-year grace period, where someone who launches a token is given up to 3 years to honestly say, I've tried to build the network. I put an honest effort into building out my network. Launching the products and utility that's associated with it. That's what the safe harbor is, a 3-year period. It's not law yet. She's proposing it. It's a rule that they would have to vote on, which would probably get voted on maybe in 2021. Okay, so read through here on her preliminary notes. These are statements that would go into it. I'm going to do this myself, and I'm going to email her. And as you go through these sections, you'll see there's modifications to existing rules or the creation of new rules. See, Rule 195 is not an exclusive safe harbor. A person who does not meet all of the applicable conditions still may claim other available exemption under the Securities Act. And then it goes into the modified rules that people can, they're not in effect yet, okay? So this is what Hester is looking for feedback on, is this information in the appendix down below, okay? Does she define safe harbor well, okay? Are these paragraphs that could be written into regulation, not law, but regulation, are these well-defined paragraphs that describe how a cryptocurrency network could be launched without being overly scrutinized by the SEC as a security, okay? And if you read the context above and then you go through each one of these line items, they make a lot more sense. Okay? Look, here's the stuff she's asking to have put into a rule. It all makes sense. The filing notice of reliance. So if the initial development team, look at these words she uses. Very unique to crypto. This is customized for crypto. The initial development team offering or selling tokens in reliance on Rule 195. Could that be a developer deploying on Cardano? I mean, the network is already there, so they don't have to build out that network, but they might not have to build the network of people and connections to other parts of the cryptocurrency network, the people network, the technologies, okay? So what I'm saying is, if we help Hester and help her define what safe harbor needs to look like for a cryptocurrency developer and entrepreneur launching products on cryptocurrency platforms, how do you define the safe harbor, that 3-year period that gives them some breathing room while they develop their products, okay? So that they're not under the the guise of a security, which is probably much more difficult, right? Okay, and then these are just more notional rules. This is all possible language to be included in a Rule 195. Okay, so if we go all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to scroll to the bottom, all the way down. Okay, down here to footnote 12. She asks if you please contact my office directly, Commissioner Peirce at sec.gov, or connect with the FinHub if you would like to provide feedback on a proposal. So you can either email her or connect via FinHub. Now, I did go over to the FinHub link. I forgot to bring it up. FinHub is not that simple like GitHub. FinHub is more for you can either do an in-person interview, or you go to FinHub and you click on connect with the commissioner, and they'll set up a Zoom session. Okay, you got to fill out this form. It's pretty easy. There's not much to it, and you can talk with them about this. So what my recommendation is to the crypto community is to participate with the SEC and to engage with the SEC, because their job is to protect consumers and investors. That's what they do. That's their job. I mean, you need people to do stuff like that. But you don't want them to come down so heavy-handed that your bags suffer. Like, that's the dilemma that the people in crypto face is, yes, I don't want to be scammed, but I don't want accountability, because then my bags will suffer. Well, I think in the long run, crypto's trust, with accountability. So if crypto community engages with the SEC and helps define how the SEC, because they're asking for feedback right there. They're asking on FinHub, and they're asking you to email them. and they're asking you to engage them in dialogue. Okay, it's in that article. Read through the article. It'll be better. You don't want this adversarial relationship where it's just crypto versus the SEC. You don't want that. That's bad. You want this collaborative relationship with the SEC where you can help them define what the rules and regulations are, or at least the wording to help people understand it. Some of the rules, they're just going to have to flat out and say, this is how the rule is because we got to protect people, right? You can collaborate with them, give them feedback. They're asking for it. It's right there on that page. It's in the links down below. So I hope y'all enjoyed this stream so far. I didn't want to go on too long, but I did want to get information out to you that the SEC isn't the big bad meanie that they're made out to be on crypto Twitter. They actually have a job to do. They actually serve a very useful purpose, and and they're open to dialogue. They're open for you to talk to them. So check out those links down below, and I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to go through the lower paragraph, the whole appendix. I've read through it twice now, but I need to read it again and say, is this language right? Maybe I'll just email Hester and say, I like this. I understand it. Okay. Or maybe I'll modify paragraph 2A and say, I didn't understand this part. Maybe try this kind of words, or maybe this will help the entrepreneur get their network built out before being declared a security, right? So I'm going to give some feedback on that to her at her email address, and I encourage y'all to do the same. Now keep in mind, you do need to be an American, a USA citizen to be commenting on stuff like that. That's just how it is. Like, you can't have the entire planet trying to bias what U.S. regulators are doing. But if you have friends who are in the U.S. or American friends, you can help them out and provide wording or encourage them and say, hey, you might want to take a look at this and think about, providing some feedback or support or encouragement to get the dialogue going with the SEC. Make sure we're all on the same playing field here. All right, so that's all I got for y'all. I'm going to take off for the night. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I know this one was kind of long, probably not the most exciting thing to talk about is regulations, and I know people in crypto don't like politics, right? But you have to, someone has to do it. Someone has to engage with the politicians. Someone has to engage with the regulators. It's a necessary thing to do. It's necessary because you can't start replacing a sovereign country's currency with a different currency without engaging them and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, whether you like it or not, right? Because they're going to get involved. They're going to get involved. So you have to learn how to engage with politics if you want. Not everybody has to do it. If you want to collect bags and hold, then go for it. Hey, if you want to stake, just stake the digital fortress. That's fine too. But if you do want to engage with the regulators and the politicians, then please do so in a good way, right? Try to be a good diplomat. Hold your ground. Stand strong. Stand up for yourself. But use tact and diplomacy as you fight the good fight. You know what I'm saying? Use tact and diplomacy while you fight the good fight. Stand your ground. Talk to the regulators. Talk to the politicians. Do what you got to do. Okay? But tact and diplomacy goes a long way. All right? So thank you all for watching Digital Fortress. If you're still here, don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below and hit the bell if you want notifications. Y'all have a great evening, and I might see you tomorrow for a New Year's Eve live stream. That would be kind of cool. So maybe I'll see you tomorrow night. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.